You wake up to the smell of something that can only be described as medieval. It's not quite manure, not quite mold, and yet it is definitely both of those things, and also somehow worse. Your nose wrinkles before your eyes even open. The straw mattress you're lying on smells like wet hay and betrayal. You blink. Light filters through the wooden shutters, soft and dusty. The rooster has already done his thing. Again. You think hateful thoughts about poultry as you rise from the damp, scratchy bedding that has probably never been washed, unless you count the time it was left out in the rain. Your linen shift is sticking to your body. Not because you sweat, but because everything is damp. Always. Perpetually. Moisture is not a seasonal guest here in your 14th century town. It is a permanent roommate. The kind who doesn't pay rent and uses your toothbrush. You stumble outside your home, a wattle and daub hut with a charmingly slanted roof that lets in just the right amount of cold air and rat. You step out onto the dirt-packed road. Mud squishes between your toes. You didn't forget your shoes. You just don't own any. Not because you're poor, though you are, but because leather is expensive and your feet are free. The sun is just beginning to rise, and the town is already humming. Well, not humming. More like grumbling, coughing, shouting. A symphony of hoarse voices and livestock groans. Someone yells at a goat. The goat wins the argument. You're heading to the market today. That sounds pleasant, doesn't it? The word market evokes quaint little stalls, cheerful chatter, and maybe some warm bread. This is not that market. This is the other kind, the one where fish is left out in the sun, children scream because they've just seen a skin pig, and someone is probably relieving themselves behind a cart of turnips. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I always love seeing who's tuning in across the world. Bonus points if you're listening from a medieval dungeon or your grandma's basement. Now, back to your journey. The market square is only a short walk from your home, which is lucky because your neighbor's pig has escaped again, and it's following you like a judgmental dog. The smell hits you before you turn the corner. And oh, what a smell it is. Imagine if someone took a fish, wrapped it in wet cabbage, buried it in a horse stable for a week, and then tried to sell it to you while describing it as fresh. That's just the beginning. There's a sharp bite of urine in the air, mixed with the earthy musk of unwashed humanity. A mun sneezes next to you, and you swear his mustache expelled something that might be sentient. Someone else is cooking onions in what you can only hope is butter, but your nose tells you it's more likely animal fat scraped from a pan used to cook eels and sadness. The stalls are already bustling with activity. Bustling here means a lot of people yelling while trying to ignore the fact that the cheese is definitely growing fur. A fishmonger slaps a slab of herring onto a wooden plank. The plank is not clean. It is a veteran of many fish. It has seen things. A woman with 3 teeth and the voice of a foghorn is trying to sell you a pie. You look closer. Is it meat? Fruit? Surprise? Nobody knows. Even she doesn't seem entirely sure. You buy one anyway because you're hungry and your standards left town around the same time the last plague did. Let's pause here to talk about that smell again. It's not just one smell. It's a tapestry. A rich, woven collection of scents layered like a tragic lasagna. First, the animals. There are pigs in pens, chickens squawking, geese honking, cows occasionally making eye contact with you in a way that feels vaguely accusatory. All of them are pooping. Constantly. There are no rules here. There is only defecation and denial. Second, the humans. Nobody has showered because that's not a thing. Baths are dangerous, or at least suspicious. Cleanliness is next to witchcraft. People wear the same wool garments day in and day out, layered with crusted sweat, food stains, and the quiet resignation of peasantry. Perfume, when used, is made from things like rosewater and crushed civet glands. It's less Chanel No. 5 and more eau de desperation. And then, of course, the food. Bread is everywhere. So much bread. Hard loaves, soft loaves, mysterious gray loaves that could double as a weapon. There's cheese, which smells like it has opinions. Meat that's been hanging a bit too long. Fish that is, let's call it bold. Fruits are rare, vegetables even rarer, and if you're lucky, someone might be roasting a pigeon. Or a rat. Don't ask questions. You navigate through the crowd, dodging carts and children, and at least one man trying to sell you a potion made from dragon bile, which you're pretty sure is just old beer and mint leaves. He claims it will cure gout, bad breath, and your terrible marriage. A bell rings in the distance. Not a church bell. A market bell. It signals the arrival of a cart from a neighboring town. This one has spices. Real spices. The kind you've only heard about in stories told by people who have never actually seen them. Cinnamon, cloves, black pepper. You lean in to sniff the little pouch the merchant holds out and nearly cry. Not because it smells good, though it does, but because it's the first thing you've inhaled all day that doesn't make you want to dig a hole and hide in it. Of course, you can't afford it. A pinch of cinnamon costs more than your monthly income, which is approximately a chicken and a blessing. You thank him and walk away, dignity only slightly damaged. You pass a tanner's stall. This is a mistake. The tanner is boiling animal hides in a vat of lion urine, a process that produces a smell so powerful it has been known to knock birds out of the sky. Your eyes water. Your soul screams. The tanner waves. You wave back because he has a knife. Nearby, a baker is selling honey cakes. They smell sweet, spicy, and suspiciously like the same cakes he was selling last week. But they're covered in bees, which is either a good sign or a bad one, depending on how you feel about bees. You decide to take your chances. You get stung. You eat the cake anyway. Let's talk about sounds, just for a moment. The medieval market is loud, but not in a fun, festival kind of way. It's more like a screaming orchestra of commerce, livestock, and existential despair. Merchants are shouting prices. Buyers are arguing. Somewhere, someone is definitely playing a lute badly. A group of boys is chasing a cat through the crowd, and that cat is not having a good day. Neither are you, frankly. You take a seat on a rickety bench near a stall selling second-hand tunics, and attempt to enjoy your bee-stung honey cake. The wood creaks ominously beneath you, and you wonder if this is how you die, impaled on a splinter during lunch. A man sits next to you and immediately begins coughing. Deep, phlegmy, soul-wrenching coughs. You slide away slowly, trying not to breathe. Good luck with that. A monk walks by, scanning the crowd for sinners or coin, possibly both. He smells faintly of incense and regret. You nod politely. He blesses you. You feel no different. At the center of the market square, a small crowd gathers around a juggler. He's juggling apples, knives, and the crushing weight of being an entertainer in a time when jesters are more likely to be beaten than tipped. Still, the crowd laughs. You do too. It's nice to laugh, even if one of those apples has a worm. Then a trumpet blows. Badly. From a tower nearby. It signals the hour, noon, probably. Time is a loose concept. Your stomach growls. You consider getting more food, but your money pouch contains exactly 3 pennies and a pebble you're emotionally attached to. You decide to buy a boiled turnip. It is, in a word, disappointing. In 2 words, aggressively disappointing. It tastes like warm regret, and has the texture of wet cloth. You eat it anyway. Hunger is a powerful negotiator. As the day goes on, the smells intensify. The heat of the sun warms the animal dung. People get sweatier. The fish get bolder. The market transforms from a bustling center of trade to a slow-cooking cauldron of humanity and decay. But weirdly, it's also kind of beautiful. In a grotesque, tragic, wow, I can't believe people lived like this kind of way. Children laugh. Old women haggle. Musicians try their best. Life goes on. Bad smells and all. You take a deep breath, cough violently, and smile. Welcome to the medieval market. You remain seated on that splintered bench, still chewing your turnip like a prisoner of war who has accepted their fate. A nearby goose eyes you with suspicion. You eye it back. There is tension. There is history. Last week it bit your ankle. Today, it might try for the face. You finish the last of your soggy meal and glance around, trying to decide whether it's worth walking the rest of the market or if you should just accept your losses and go home to nap in the scent of straw mildew and despair. But then you hear it, the distinct clanging of a blacksmith's hammer. It's rhythmic, hypnotic, kind of like a lullaby, if your lullabies were composed entirely of industrial suffering. You follow the sound, weaving past the man selling suspicious-looking sausages and a child with no pants. The blacksmith stall is less of a stall and more of a half-covered shed that's probably a fire hazard. You watch as he shapes glowing metal into horseshoes, sparks flying, sweat dripping, eyebrows missing. He nods at you. You nod back. This is how friendships were made in the 14th century. Eye contact, shared exhaustion, and a mutual understanding that life is mostly pain. The heat from the forge is immense. It mixes with the heat of the day, and the scent of burning everything, iron, charcoal, maybe some hair. You feel your pores open in protest. But you stay, mesmerized by the hammering and half hoping he'll give you a reason to stay longer, so you can pretend the heat is deliberate, not just the natural cooking temperature of your armpits. But alas, he is busy. And you are broke. So you wander on. Now you find yourself in the cloth section. Oh yes, there is a cloth section. Don't be fooled into thinking this is a glamorous runway situation. No one here is wearing silk unless they're royalty or about to be arrested for impersonating someone who matters. The colors are mostly brown, gray, and was once blue but now a mysterious beige. The cloth merchant, a wiry man with fingers stained from dye and lies, tries to sell you a tunic. It's scratchy. Everything is scratchy. Medieval clothing was not about comfort. It was about function and enduring the constant itch of your own existence. He shows you wool dyed with woad, a plant that produces a lovely, dull blue after several rounds of soaking, fermenting, and being insulted by a professional dyer. You run your fingers along it. It's rough, slightly damp, and smells faintly of river water and crushed disappointment. Fashion. You thank him and move along, past a group of women loudly discussing the latest scandal involving the miller's wife, a jug of mead, and a monk with very poor boundaries. The gossip is juicy. So are the flies buzzing around the nearby meat stall. Let's go back to smells. You haven't escaped them. You won't. Ever. The butcher stall is a horror show. If the horror had been outsourced to a team of pigs and poorly cleaned blades. Slabs of pork, beef, goat, and miscellaneous hang from iron hooks. The air is thick with blood. Thick. As in, you can feel it coating your nostrils. Somewhere under all of it, you think you detect rosemary. But that might just be a hallucination. The butcher sees you staring and smiles. His teeth are interpretive. He gestures proudly at his wares, and you nod, trying not to gag as a fly dives straight into the open chest cavity of a hanging rabbit. This is where you get meat. There are no clean counters. No refrigeration. Just a mun, a knife, and hope. If the meat's too green, he might rub vinegar on it and call it aged. If it smells off, he'll shrug and say, "You'll boil it anyway." And you will. Because hunger is creative, and seasoning is for the rich. A small dog sneaks under the table and drags away what appears to be a cow's ear. No one stops it. You kind of respect the hustle. Nearby, an old woman is selling herbs. She looks like she was born old and decided to just lean into it. Her stall smells incredible, mint, lavender, sage, and the faint whiff of sarcasm. She offers you a bundle of thyme for a halfpenny. You buy it, not because you need it, but because it's the only stall that doesn't smell like death or cheese-related trauma. She asks if you have ailments. You say you have general despair. She gives you a dried root and tells you to chew it when you feel like crying. You chew it immediately. It tastes like wood and regret. You wander toward the poultry section. You immediately regret this. Chickens squawk, ducks honk, and a turkey gives you a stare so intense you nearly apologize. Cages are stacked in a way that would make a modern health inspector burst into flames. Feathers fill the air. You inhale one and begin a slow, undignified coughing fit. No one helps you. Everyone is too busy yelling about eggs. There's a man with a goose tied to his belt. You don't ask. He doesn't offer. That's probably for the best. Somewhere nearby, a child drops a clay mug, and it shatters. No one gasps. No one cares. Clay is cheap. Children are cheaper. You lean against a wall and try to breathe through your mouth. That helps. A little. But now you can taste the air. Which is arguably worse. Suddenly, a man in a fine robe strides through the crowd. A tax collector. You can tell because everyone immediately stops smiling. He carries a ledger, a quill, and the unmistakable aura of someone who has never once cleaned up after a cow. He's here to make sure the stall owners pay their dues to the lord of the manor. The same lord who hasn't been seen in 3 months because he's off crusading or coughing blood somewhere. The tax collector stops at the honey vendor. Words are exchanged. A coin purse is handed over. Peace is maintained. Barely. You consider becoming a tax collector. Then remember it requires literacy, math, and a complete lack of a soul. Now you move toward the entertainment section. Yes, there is one. Sort of. A muun is doing handstands next to a woman playing a hurdy-gurdy. A child is dancing wildly nearby. No one asked him to. He's just possessed by joy or fleas. Possibly both. A group of traveling actors performs a short play about the evils of vanity. One actor wears a pig mask and speaks entirely in burps. The crowd loves it. A monk frowns from a distance. But even he chuckles when the pig character falls into a barrel. You toss a pebble into the donation basket. Not your pebble. A different one. Yours is special. It's mid-afternoon now. The market begins to shift again. The sun is lower, the shadows longer, and the smells deeper. A kind of aged stew of body odor, drying meat, horse droppings, and despair that has baked under the sun long enough to become a physical entity. A muun passes you with a cart full of chamber pots. You do not want to know where he's going. You just pray he doesn't spill. The cobbler is out, trying to sell patch shoes. You check your feet. Still bare. Still calloused. Still one infection away from medieval amputation adventure. You stare longingly at the shoes. He stares longingly at your coins. It's a stalemate. Near the edge of the square, a healer sets up shop. She's got tinctures, jars of questionable contents, and a dead snake nailed to a board. A muun with a cough asks if she can cure it. She gives him a tincture and says it's made from honey, vinegar, and crushed emerald. He drinks it. He still coughs. But he believes. Sometimes that's enough. You pass a wooden stage. A muun is preaching loudly about morality and doom. Mostly doom. His voice is hoarse and he's sweating through his robes. People ignore him. This is not their first public doom-saying. You glance back toward the market center. The fishmonger has started packing up. The fish has reached a point of smell that even he finds offensive. A cat tries to steal one. He lets it. The cat has earned it. A soft breeze picks up, stirring the layers of odor like a pot of unfortunate soup. It wafts through the stalls, carrying with it hints of lavender, turnip, sweat, and crime. You inhale deeply. You regret it immediately. And yet, you kind of love it. The chaos. The smell. The sheer audacity of it all. It's alive. Loud. Disgusting. But alive. You sit back on your splintered bench. You made it through most of the day, without contracting plague. Probably. The sun begins to set, casting a golden hue over the dirt and filth, making it all seem, briefly, picturesque. Then a dog vomits near your foot. Welcome, again, to the medieval market. You remain on your bench far longer than intended, the sort of quick rest that becomes a full-blown existential pause. You watch the market begin to transform like a weird theatrical production where no one knows their lines and the props are mostly rotting vegetables. The sun has started its dramatic descent behind the crooked rooftops of the village. It doesn't set so much as it sighs out of existence. Shadows stretch like tired limbs across the square, spilling across mud puddles, discarded apple cores, and the hopes of the people still trying to sell 3 wilted onions at a premium. You notice the air has changed. Not cleaner, just evolved. Like it's undergone a second fermentation. The earlier scent profile, dead fish, farm animals, and unwashed humanity, has settled into a deeper, more brooding blend. Think compost bin left open during a Renaissance festival mixed with gastrointestinal uncertainty. Some would call this the golden hour. In medieval terms, it's more like when your candle ration starts to matter. People begin packing up. The blacksmith's fire dims. The cheese vendor, now surrounded by more flies than cheese, sighs as he covers the wheels with linen, which does nothing, because the linen smells worse than the cheese. But not everyone is leaving. This is when the real market begins. The unofficial one. The not-so-legal, slightly shadier, nobody asks questions because questions make you disappear kind of market. It starts with a muun in a faded hood who pushes a cart that absolutely wasn't there an hour ago. You never saw him arrive. He's selling elixirs. You ask what they cure. He says what ails you. You say everything. He gives you a small bottle filled with a liquid that looks like melted glass and regret. You pretend to drink it. He pretends it'll work. A woman appears next, selling dried mushrooms. She claims they'll help you see angels. Or turn into one, depending on dosage. A nearby friar mutters a prayer and walks away faster than he's ever moved in his life. So before we dive even deeper into the medieval nightlife, the bonfires, the illegal gambling, the musical acts that would probably be outlawed in 5 nearby villages, take a second to like this video and subscribe. But only if you're genuinely enjoying this slow descent into the darkest smelling corners of history. And drop a comment to let me know where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's honestly fascinating seeing how many of you are falling asleep to the scent of fermented goat milk and poor decisions. Back in the market, someone lights a torch. Just one. Just enough to highlight the sheer volume of insects that have been patiently waiting for darkness like some kind of winged underworld army. You follow a small group heading toward the back corner of the square. They've set up a circle of stools, most of them stolen from taverns or borrowed from increasingly confused children. A man with one eyebrow plays a lute missing half its strings. The music is, surprisingly, not bad. Or maybe it's just that you're tired and your standards are lowering by the minute. A woman begins to sing. It's a haunting tune, the kind that makes your spine tingle. Partly because it's beautiful, partly because you're sitting directly on a rock and haven't felt your left leg since the last full moon. The group passes around a jug of mead. It smells like apples, honey, and the kind of headache that becomes a personality trait. You're handed the jug. You sip. It burns. You smile. You're now part of the night market. More torches are lit. More stools appear. It's like the chairs have legs of their own. A dog you've never seen before lies at your feet and farts without remorse. You accept this. Across the square, a man is doing card tricks. You have no idea where the cards came from. Playing cards exist, technically, but they're expensive and rare, especially here, where even owning a book might get you accused of sorcery. You assume the cards are homemade or stolen. Or both. The crowd loves it, probably because they've never seen sleight of hand before. Or hands that clean. And now, the gamblers arrive. Dice clatter onto overturned crates. Coins exchange hands quickly. Voices rise. Threats are made in low tones. It's like a Renaissance casino with significantly worse lighting and infinitely more venereal diseases. You sit and observe. You're not stupid enough to bet, not with the shoes you don't have and the single coin you might have hallucinated. But watching is free, and right now, so is judgment. A man loses 3 chickens in one bet. They are immediately claimed by a nearby drunk who doesn't even own a coop. You assume the chickens will be sleeping in a bed of straw and mead vapors tonight, same as the rest of us. Let's talk about the smells again, because somehow they've gotten worse. The bonfires have stirred up layers of previously dormant stink. Burning wood, yes, but also scorched lard, wet wool, and the unmistakable aroma of someone's pants being way past their wash-by date. And someone is definitely cooking something. A bubbling pot sits over a fire near the edge of the square. It contains stew. Probably. You can't see what's in it. No one can. But the smell is bold, confusing, and a little judgmental. Garlic, maybe? Or burnt onion? Or yesterday's soup reheated with today's regrets? You don't ask. You just move slightly farther away. An older man sits near you, wheezing softly. He leans in and whispers that he once saw a man eat 10 raw eggs for a bet. You don't know what to do with this information. But now you have it. Forever. Nearby, a bard starts reciting poetry. Bad poetry. The kind that rhymes love with shove and references roses as metaphors for every conceivable body part. A few people clap. Most pretend to fall asleep. You consider joining them. As night deepens, things get weirder. Someone brings out a ferret on a leash and starts taking bets on how fast it can climb a pole. It climbs exactly 1 foot before falling asleep. The crowd loses its mind. Someone starts chanting. You're not sure if it's religious or just very tired enthusiasm. A man with a crooked nose starts selling teeth. Not his. Hopefully. You don't ask. He's got a small pouch filled with them. Human? Animal? A mix of both? You make the very brave decision to walk away slowly and not maintain eye contact. You end up near the tanners. Yes, they're still here. Working. Because medieval life never ends, not for peasants, not for artisans, and certainly not for those who willingly work with urine and cow brains. They've got hides stretched out over frames, scraping away hair and flesh under torchlight. The smell it defies physics. It rises, settles, and wraps around you like a wet, judgmental cloak. You gag. Quietly. Respectfully. They nod at you. You nod back. You're now bonded through mutual trauma. A bell rings in the distance. Not a church bell, a handbell. A sign that it's nearly curfew. The lord of the manor has decreed that all non-residents must leave the market square by sundown. Or else. Or else what? No one knows. No one has ever dared ask. But one time someone didn't leave, and the next morning their shoes were found hanging from the church spire. Just the shoes. People begin to pack up. The mood shifts. The air tightens. Laughter dies down. The music stops. The ferret is collected. You walk slowly back toward the center of the square. A few torches remain lit. The food stalls are now just skeletons of grease and wood. Someone picks at a leftover turnip. A child steals a half-eaten meat pie and vanishes into the night like a Dickensian ghost. You find your bench again. Sit down. Sigh. The day is over. The market is quiet. The smells linger. Even with most people gone, the air is thick with all that transpired, the sweat, the fire smoke, the raw meats, the dried herbs, the dreams cooked too long over low flame. You close your eyes. And for a moment, you don't mind the smell. Because this chaos, this mess, this absurd little square of life, is all there is. And somewhere in that stew of onion broth, burning wool, and expired sausages, you find a strange kind of peace. You wake up. Not in a bed. Not on a cot. Not even on a hay bale. You wake up on the same bench you've now emotionally bonded with, the one by the dung smeared well near the cabbage stand of despair. Your neck hurts. Your back hurts. Your legs are covered in bite marks. From what? You don't know. Could be fleas. Could be ghosts. Could be flea ghosts. Someone nearby is already shouting about turnips. It's barely dawn. A rooster screams in the distance like it knows something terrible is coming. And it does. You are about to visit the livestock section. Now, if you're imagining a pleasant, pastoral scene filled with woolly sheep frolicking on green hills while a boy plays a flute, stop. That's a medieval fairy tale written by someone who's never stepped in something warm and alive at 6 in the morning. The livestock section is not romantic. It's not clean. And it is absolutely not for vegetarians or anyone who likes their food to not bleat before becoming soup. It's a biohazardous maze of pens, ropes, puddles, and decisions people will regret by sunset. And the smell? Oh, the smell. If you've ever wondered what a pig's armpit might smell like after a 3-day bender in a swamp sauna, this is it. But worse. Because it's layered. Complex. Like a wine tasting hosted by Satan. There's the sour tang of manure, fresh, old, aged, fermented, and fossilized. There's the wet dog aroma of sheep packed too tightly in a pen designed for half as many. There's the sharp, acrid sting of goat urine, which smells like someone tried to pickle a raccoon using only sadness and vinegar. And then there's the pigs. Dear listener, pigs in a medieval market are not the cute, pink cartoon pigs from children's books. These are large, angry, feral slabs of meat with teeth. Teeth. Some of them have seen war. One of them definitely stabbed a mun last week. You believe it. You walk cautiously between the pens, trying not to make eye contact with the geese. That's right. Geese. Because no medieval livestock section would be complete without Satan's feathered foot soldiers. They hiss. They glare. One follows you for 5 full minutes. You speed up. It matches your pace. You stop. It stops. You turn. It honks, the kind of honk that says, I know what you did. You find a pen filled with cows. They stare at you with a level of boredom that borders on philosophical. One is chewing cud. Another is chewing what might be someone's discarded hat. You nod respectfully. They nod back. You are equals here. Next to the cows, the horses. Now, medieval horses are expensive. Like, you could trade one for a spouse and a 1/4 acre of land expensive. These are not your average ponies. These are the medieval equivalent of sport cars. And like all sport cars, they smell like leather, sweat, and mild panic. A merchant is brushing one down with a bundle of straw and telling a wide-eyed boy that it's a strong beast, noble, calm. The horse promptly tries to kick him in the face. You admire its honesty. You move on. Past the ducks, loud, the chickens, louder, and the turkeys, wrong continent, but okay, fantasy logic. A small child is chasing a sheep with a stick. The sheep is winning. You reach the pig pens. There are no words, but I'll try. Pigs in medieval markets don't just roll in mud. They are mud. They generate it. They sweat it. They wear it like armor. There's a sound, a sort of squelch pop grunt symphony happening. It's unsettlingly rhythmic, like a choir of damp accordions. And then one of them snorts directly at you. You feel it in your soul. At the edge of the pig area is a butcher's stall. Not the kind you'd find in a nice indoor market with glass cases and helpful staff. This is a table. That's it. A wooden table. Covered in parts. Wet parts. With fur still attached in some places. You think you see a tail. You definitely see a hoof. Behind the table stands a man with no eyebrows and a cleaver that looks like it's seen more action than the entire Crusades. He grins. You do not grin back. He's selling fresh meat. You do not ask from what or who. Someone ahead of you buys a slab of something. It makes a sound when he drops it in his sack. Thud. With a squish. Now would be a good time to take a moment, breathe in deeply, and appreciate the fact that you're not physically here. You're lying in your bed under clean sheets, surrounded by modern amenities like soap and personal space. And maybe consider liking this video and subscribing. Because if you've made it this far into a 3-hour journey of historically accurate farm smells, you're either asleep or exactly the kind of person I want joining me for the rest of this bizarre bedtime tour. Drop a comment telling me if you've ever smelled a pig in real life. And if you haven't, never change. Back in the market, a bell rings. It's not the curfew bell, it's the sale bell. Someone is auctioning a donkey. You don't know who's buying. Or why. The donkey looks suspiciously hungover. Like it just woke up in someone else's barn and is too tired to care. The bidding is tense. Woman offers 3 sacks of barley and a slightly cracked jug of wine. Another counters with a chicken and a promise he won't punch anyone this time. The first man wins. The donkey sighs. Somewhere nearby, a lamb escapes its pen. Chaos ensues. Children scream. A man drops his ale. A woman climbs a fence in terror. The lamb is eventually tackled by 2 teenagers and a goat who got too involved. You need a break. You find a small stone wall and sit. You close your eyes. The livestock market continues around you like a fever dream. Feathers flying, hooves clopping, someone yelling, "That's not my duck," and another voice screaming, "It is now." The smell never leaves. It's in your nose, your throat, your soul. You wonder if it's possible to become the smell. If you'll carry it with you forever, like a medieval curse or a particularly clinging ex. Then a breeze rolls in from the hills. For just a second, a tiny second, it smells like grass. Real, clean, green grass. The kind you'd find far from the market, near the abbey, past the fields, where the air hasn't yet learned what despair smells like. It's gone as fast as it came. The pig pen lets out a chorus of snorts. The butcher sneezes and doesn't cover his mouth. A chicken lands on your head. You've been chosen. And you realize the livestock market isn't a place. It's a state of being. You make the mistake of turning left. Not just any left, the left. The kind of left that spirals you away from the open daylight of livestock and into the cold, damp shadows of what medieval folks generously call side streets, but are actually just glorified ditches with buildings glued to them. The ground is uneven. Mud here is not like other mud. It's deeper. It has opinions. It tries to eat your shoes. The smell? Imagine if mildew married garlic and they raised their children in a damp root cellar filled with pickled fish. That's what it smells like. You look up. There's a faded sign swinging on a rusted chain. It says something in Old French, which you do not read, but based on the smell wafting from the door, it probably translates to "Here there be regrets." This is the alley market, where official stalls don't go, where regulation is a myth, where you can buy things no one should sell and no one ever admits buying. You want a potion that allegedly cures baldness by burning off your scalp? They've got that. Want a toad pickled in wine and labeled as good luck? Also available. Somewhere to your left, a mon whispers, "Pust. You want teeth?" You don't. But it's too late. He opens a small wooden box and it is, in fact, full of teeth. Human? Maybe. Animal? Probably. Clean? Not even remotely. You back away slowly. Someone else offers you authentic relics, one of which appears to be a spoon. Not a holy spoon. Just a spoon. You could probably buy it for 2 farthings and your soul. You keep walking, past a narrow stall where someone is selling exotic perfumes. You pick up a vial. The label says Essence of the East. You sniff it. It smells like cloves, regret, and faintly, like feet. You set it down, and the vendor insists it's imported. From where? A place, he says, beyond the sea. Which probably means he found it in a bucket, behind the inn. A child runs by you holding a chicken in one hand and a coin in the other, laughing hysterically. A merchant yells after him, but doesn't chase. This is normal. Crime here is just a kind of sport. You find a stand selling used candles. Not new candles. Not even gently used. These are stubs, some burned halfway down, others melted into weird shapes, one that looks unsettlingly like a screaming face. The vendor says they're enchanted. You believe they're haunted. You continue down the alley. The smell is getting sharper. That's because you've reached the tanner stall. Now, in modern terms, leather tanning is unpleasant. But in medieval terms, it's a biological war crime. They don't use nice, eco-friendly chemicals. They use dog urine. They use human urine. They use lime and animal brains and rotting flesh and the tears of apprentices who didn't read the job description carefully enough. You gag. Quietly. Internally. The tanner nods at you with a face that says, "Yes, I know I smell like despair, and I'm fine with that." He's working on a hide stretched over a wooden frame. You think it's cow. You hope it's cow. He scrapes it with a dull blade while whistling something that sounds like a funeral dirge. Just beyond him, a stall sells shoes. Made from that leather. You pick one up. It squelches. You put it back. At this point, you might be asking yourself, why is this still going? Because medieval markets were huge. Not just a few stalls and a goat. We're talking dozens of streets, hundreds of vendors, thousands of smells. The alleyways stretch like spiderwebs behind the main square, each one darker, narrower, weirder. You find immense selling remedies. None of them are regulated. All of them come in bottles with hand-written labels like lung soother, plague begone, and snake-free wine. You ask him what's in the lung soother. He squints at the bottle. Probably honey, he says, and something brown. You move on. There's a woman selling charms. Little bags filled with herbs, bones, and hope. She tells you they ward off evil. You ask if they work. She shrugs. Not so far. A cart rolls past, pulled by a donkey, pushed by a boy. The cart is filled with bones. Not cleaned, polished museum bones. No, these are moist. Probably leftovers from the butcher. Probably not legal. Probably sold to someone who thinks boiling them makes soup and wisdom. Someone sneezes behind you. You flinch. It's medieval times. Sneezing might as well be a death sentence. You check your pockets. You still have your coin pouch. Barely. A beggar tugs at your sleeve. He asks for bread. You don't have any. He tells you a long, winding story about a cursed hem he once bought in this very alley, and how it ruined his marriage. You nod politely. You will absolutely tell this story to someone else later, as if it happened to you. Now the alley curves again. You step into a darkened tunnel, technically still part of the market. The walls are damp. The ceiling drips something that could be water. You hope it's water. You really do. There are no vendors here. Just shadows. Just whispers. Just a man leaning against the wall, offering secrets for the price of a fingernail. You don't ask. Eventually, you emerge back into the relative brightness of the main square. It's louder here. Safer, in a way. At least you can see the chaos. The alleys remain behind you, whispering, stinking, always waiting. You sit by the fountain again. It's not clean water, but it's not human teeth or fermented candle stubs, so it's practically a spa. You close your eyes. And somewhere, a goose honks again. You are sitting on the fountain ledge again. Your spine has merged with the stone. Your socks, made of wool and stubbornness, have absorbed roughly 2 liters of questionable alley water. You've seen pigs attack a mun. You've smelled 6 types of smoke and 12 types of feet. And now, the market starts to fill with people. Real characters. Characters who've never bathed, but always have opinions. It starts subtly. A shouting match near the grain stall. A laughing monk handing out bad advice. A mun juggling knives, badly. The crowd expands like rising dough, except it smells more like onions and unresolved trauma. You stand up. Your knees crack like dry kindling. You are ready. A mun with a shockingly large hat approaches you. The hat appears to be made of felt and possibly hubris. He leans in and whispers, "They put vinegar in the beer today." Again. Then he walks away, never to be seen again. This is your first interaction. It will only get weirder. You begin your walk. To your left, a storyteller. She stands on a box, one boot off, gesturing wildly with a chicken feather and shouting a story about a duke, a bear, and a soup that changed history. None of it is true. All of it is incredible. She charges a single coin if you stay until the end. If you interrupt, she curses your future children. Her voice cuts through the air like a goose honk dipped in poetry. A small boy weeps with joy. An old woman throws cabbage. Art. To your right, a mun selling truths. Just truths. He has a beard longer than your patience and eyes that say, "I haven't blinked since Tuesday." He leans toward a young couple and whispers, "The moon is a boiled onion." They nod solemnly and hand him a coin. You move past them. 2 women argue over the price of eggs. The eggs are not part of the argument. They just argue about eggs. This has been happening every day for 14 years. No one knows why. Near the fish stall, a mun sits on a stool playing a stringed instrument with only 1 string left. It sounds like a dying cat, but everyone claps. Someone offers him a fish. He eats it raw. He bows. Further on, you meet the town loudmouth. Every medieval market has one. His job is to yell things that don't need yelling. Turnips. Real turnips, he yells. No one's asking. He just needs to be heard. Next to him, a young girl sells love potions. She's 9. The potions are water with flower petals and hope. She's already richer than 3 neighboring villages. A boy her age buys one and drinks it immediately. Nothing happens, but he says he feels more powerful. She nods like she knew it all along. You take a turn around the corner and find the performance square. There's a puppet show happening. It's confusing. One puppet is definitely a king. The other is either a dragon or someone's uncle with a bad back. The plot involves bread theft and minor treason. Children scream with laughter. Adults watch like they're questioning everything. Behind the stage, a drunk friar heckles the puppets. Loudly. Repeatedly. No one stops him. The puppet master incorporates the friar into the show. The friar wins. Now you spot the noblewoman. Every market has one of these 2. Rich, overdressed, bored. She's flanked by guards who look like they were carved from stale bread. She buys 3 apples, a spoon, and a bucket of eels. She will eat none of them. She just likes owning things. You overhear her say, "Markets are so real." Then she steps over a child and vanishes. Next, the gamblers. A trio of shady men crowd around dice on a barrel. You think about watching, but then you hear someone yell, "The bones lie," and a fist fight breaks out. 2 people bet on the fight. A third tries to sell salve to the bleeding loser. Capitalism, medieval style. You duck into a crowd of people listening to a traveling philosopher. He's barefoot, wears 3 belts for no reason, and speaks in riddles. He says things like, "All cheese is temporary, and you can't drown twice in the same soup." People nod like this is profound. You pretend to understand. You really don't. And then, of course, there's the drunk knight. He's in armor. He shouldn't be. It's too hot, and he's clearly sweating beer. He leans on a sword that's definitely ceremonial and yells, "Who among you dares challenge Sir Puke-a-Lot?" No one dares. A child challenges him. He falls over. Everyone applauds. You start noticing patterns. People who seem to always be here. The woman who knits aggressively and sells no knits. The mun who stands in the center of the road yelling about mushrooms. The mun who is a mushroom. You're not sure. You meet an old mun who tells you a story. You don't ask. He just starts. It's about the market. About how he once sold a single shoe for a dozen eggs and married the egg woman, only to learn she was allergic to chickens and left him for a thatcher with strong hands. He now carves spoons and sells them for stories. You give him one about a frog that learns Latin. He hands you a spoon. A boy with a ferret runs past. The ferret is wearing a hat. You say nothing. You walk past a monk selling quills. He says, guaranteed to write the truth. You ask how. He says, lies stain. You're not sure if it's metaphor or marketing. Now you spot a group of traveling performers. Jugglers, fire breathers, a woman who eats broken glass like it's popcorn. You applaud. She burps. A spark flies out. Magic. Everywhere you look, there's someone. Someone with a history, a secret, or just very confusing fashion choices. You pass a man whose sole purpose appears to be standing dramatically. You don't know if he's for hire or if this is a personal project. There's an old woman brushing a rock. She says it was once a prince. You believe her. The rock looks smug. A group of schoolboys pass, throwing bits of cheese at each other. One of them accidentally hits a guard. A chase ensues. The cheese boy escapes. The crowd cheers. By now, your feet hurt. Your brain hurts. You have seen 14 different versions of truth and none of them agree. But you're starting to understand. The market isn't just a place to trade goods. It's the beating, bleeding, chaotic heart of medieval society. It's where the village lives, where the bored find excitement, the strange find friends, and the slightly criminal find customers. You find a bench. A real one this time. It has 3 legs, but that's enough. You sit. A man approaches. He offers you something wrapped in cloth. It's wisdom, he says. You open it. It's a turnip. Still warm. You eat it anyway. It's evening now. Not evening in the modern sense, with your phone telling you it's 6:45 and the street lights politely clicking on. No, this is medieval evening, which means the sun is melting into the rooftops, the air smells of roasted meat and old sweat, and someone nearby is already singing very off-key and very off-tempo. You've lost track of time. Not because you're distracted, because no one here owns a clock. Time is measured by candles burning down, and how many times someone's goat has escaped today. Currently, 3. The square is now lit by dozens of torches, all smoldering with the kind of smoky fire that gives you a permanent cough and a deep appreciation for modern ventilation. The market is still alive, but the day vendors are packing up. The respectable ones, anyway. The butter seller? Gone. The monk with the truth quills? Gone, probably to confession. But the others? The ones who thrive in darkness? They're just getting started. To your left, the food stalls have taken a turn. Daylight vendors sold pies and meat. The night vendors less so. You pass a cart labeled boiled things. No explanation. Just things. It smells boiled. Another offers stews, plural. They all look identical. One might contain fish. One might contain rat. One might be just hot water and lies. All of them are served with a chunk of bread the size of your disappointment. You order one. It's edible. Probably. The bread, at least, could be used in self-defense. You walk on. A group of men play music by slapping barrels and banging spoons on their knees. One of them is actually good. The others are just loud. People dance. Someone trips. A child is lifted into the air like a sacred turnip. The mood is rowdy, but not angry. Yet. You round a corner and find the tavern stalls. These are pop-up drinking dens, tents with ale barrels, stools, and zero licensing. A man gestures to you. Ale, he asks, then adds, no rats this time, which suggests there were rats last time. You politely decline. He shrugs and pours some for a donkey tied nearby. To your right, a group of tradesmen gamble with bones, not dice. Actual animal bones. They slap them down like cards, yell incomprehensible rules, and accuse each other of heresy. You're not sure if they're playing a game or founding a new religion. The torchlight glows orange across the muddy square. Shadows flicker across carts and faces. Everyone seems just a little more unpredictable. A man in a cloak sells night charms. He whispers, protection from dreams. You ask what kind of dreams. He says, the kind with teeth. You buy 2. Further along, You reach the edges of the market, the part where things are no longer neatly laid out, where stalls become tarps, and tarps become rugs, and rugs are just blankets on dirt. The vendors here? Not what you'd call conventional. One offers moon milk. It's in a bottle that glows slightly. You ask what's in it. He says, moon. You nod. Respect. Another sells visions. You ask how much. He says, give me a secret. You say, sometimes I think the goose understands me. He hands you a pebble and says, plant this under a full moon. You do not question him. Someone nearby breathes fire. Actually breathes it. No tricks. Just actual flames from their face. The crowd cheers. A woman faints. Someone suggests she's possessed. Someone else suggests she's just drunk. A group of wandering minstrels strum lutes and sing ballads, but all the lyrics have been changed to be about cheese. You hum along. It feels right. Behind the stalls, in a shadowy alley, the real party is happening. Not loud. Not flashy. Just quiet groups gathered around candles, trading goods that never see the daytime. Smuggled spice. Banned texts. A jar labeled curse butter. You pass a woman selling silk that feels suspiciously warm. She says it's woven from dream spiders. You say nothing, hand her a coin, and later use it as a handkerchief because you're classy like that. Somewhere nearby, someone plays a flute. Not well. Just consistently. You walk deeper into the night. There's a man telling fortunes with chicken bones. He throws them onto a cloth, stares at them, then says, you will marry someone with ankles. You nod solemnly. Good news. A cart trundles past, drawn by a cow. The cart is full of what appears to be spoons. Just spoons. Hundreds. The driver yells, spoons for the lonely, and several people gather. This is apparently normal. Two women arm wrestle for a piece of dried fish. One wins. The fish splits. They eat in silence. A cat jumps onto your shoulder, purrs, then vanishes. You were never owned by that cat. It simply allowed your existence. You find a quiet bench. The night air is damp now, laced with soot and cinnamon and something faintly minty, which you later discover is just your own desperate imagination trying to protect you. The moon is visible above the rooftops, pale and smug. And just when you think it's winding down, someone screams. Not in fear. In victory. Apparently the turnip-throwing contest has begun. You watch as farmers hurl vegetables at a wooden cutout of a bishop. Points are awarded for accuracy, flair, and backstory. One man claims his turnip was grown in cursed soil. He gets a standing ovation. A woman throws a potato. She is disqualified. A donkey wins the third round. No one questions it. Midnight comes, but no one says so. It's just felt, in the sag of the torches, the louder laughter, the slurred songs. You've lost track of the day, maybe on purpose. Because here, in this strange, smoky corner of time, things make a strange kind of sense. You are full of stew. You have a pebble that might be magic. You own a piece of silk that is possibly haunted. And for one night, you don't care. The market continues, quieter now, slower, but still alive. You sit. You breathe. You wonder if that cheese minstrel will take requests. You are standing outside a canvas tent. It is slightly crooked, slightly damp, and completely untrustworthy. The sign above the flap reads Physic and Other Curious Healings. The word physic is spelled in 4 different ways across the front, none of them correct. You have, against all logic, entered the medical district of the medieval market. And it is thriving. Your symptoms? Not important. You haven't even said them aloud yet. One look from a self-declared barber surgeon, and he already knows what you need, a pint of blood removed and a boiled onion tied to your foot. You haven't even told him which foot. You step inside the tent anyway. The inside smells like aged soup. Not the kind you eat, the kind that eats you. Herbs hang from the ceiling like drying bats. There are jars. So many jars. Some are labeled. Some are not. One contains what looks like an eyeball and a piece of string. Another is just full of teeth. Whose? Unknown. And best left that way. Behind a stained table, a man turns around. He's wearing robes that might have once been white, but are now the exact color of despair. His beard is glorious. His hands are not clean. He smiles. Ah, he says. You look like someone with fluids to spare. This, you assume, is the greeting. He offers you a stool. It creaks like it's being asked to bear a moral burden. You sit. He begins diagnosis. Step 1. He looks at your tongue. You haven't even stuck it out yet. He just knows. Step 2. He pokes your wrist with 2 fingers, nods thoughtfully, and mutters something about humors being impertinent. You ask what's wrong with you. He says, nothing that some bloodletting and a soothing mixture of ash and gooseberry can't fix. You ask what exactly is in the mixture. He changes the subject to weather and war. You glance to the side and notice a stack of leeches. Not in a jar, just a stack. Like they were on sale, and someone got excited. You decide to try another healer. Outside the tent, the competition is fierce. Medieval medical professionals, and we are using that term generously, are shouting over one another, waving around herbs, powders, and small dead animals. One woman claims she can cure melancholia of the toe. Another insists he can fix your spine by gently insulting it for 20 minutes. You pass a stall run by a midwife. She seems competent. She's also shouting at a young man who tried to mansplain childbirth to her. She's winning. Next to her is a man offering cures for curses. His solution? Drink goat milk. Stand on one leg. Whisper apologies to the moon. Twice. You keep walking. You approach a table covered in tiny bottles, all labeled with things like essence of joy, liquid calm, and definitely not just wine. The vendor is a former monk who left the order for health reasons. He won't elaborate. You ask him if he has anything for sleep. He hands you a bottle labeled Nap of the Dead. You decline. He shrugs and drinks it himself. Immediately falls asleep. Possibly for real. You take a turn toward the surgical end of things. This was a mistake. There's a man sharpening a saw. He smiles. You do not. He introduces himself as Master Osric, surgeon to the unwise. His stall offers a variety of services including limb removal, ear piercing, heresy detection, and what he calls ocular optimism. You ask what that means. He points to a sign that says for when your eye doesn't believe enough. You leave. Further on, you find the herbalists. These are the more chill side of medieval healing. They smell slightly better, mostly of dried plants and vinegar, and they're much less into bleeding you dry. One woman gives you a bundle of thyme and tells you to burn it in your sleeping quarters. It will chase away nightmares, she says. Also fleas. Possibly spirits. You ask if it works. She says it does not work. You thank her. Now you're at the apothecary. He's old. Wears glasses thick enough to see through time. His table is a chaotic masterpiece of pestles, powders, and small, oddly shaped roots. He offers you a salve for bruises. You ask what's in it. He says, hope, lard, and the crushed dreams of an elderberry. You buy 2. Behind him, an assistant organizes bottles. One spills. A puff of green smoke emerges. No one reacts. This is apparently normal. You move along to the charm makers. They aren't doctors, exactly, but they are willing to sell you small leather pouches filled with hair, coins, and vague intentions. One says, this charm prevents accidental betrayal. You ask if it works. She says, well, I haven't been betrayed yet. You buy 3. You're almost done. But then you see the bleeding tent. Oh yes, the big one. Decorated with red cloth, stained with darker red things. Inside, the art of bloodletting is practiced with theatrical flair. The barber surgeon inside wears a hat that could double as a soup bowl. He twirls his blade like he's auditioning for a circus. He offers you a special deal, half a pint, half the price. You politely decline. He winks and bleeds a pig instead. For practice. There's also the urine mun. Yes, a mun who diagnoses illness exclusively through examining pee. He has 12 vials on display. He offers a free sample reading. You decline. He offers one anyway. He says, staring into a random jar. This one is angry. You back away slowly. As the night deepens, the healers get weirder. You pass a woman who claims to heal through song. She sings a tune about liver failure. It's catchy. You see a man who believes you can cure most diseases by yelling into a barrel. You see someone offering free bone rebalancing. You're not sure what that means, but you see someone walk in 6 feet 2 inches and leave 5 feet 9 inches. By now, your head is spinning. Your body feels slightly healthier and significantly more confused. You've collected 3 charms, 2 vials of soothing dust, and a leaf that someone assured you would protect your dreams from betrayal. Your feet hurt, but somehow, you feel alive. You survived medieval medicine, with only minor exposure to leeches and no accidental amputation. You sit down near the fire. An old healer sits beside you. He doesn't sell anything. He just tells you, quietly, the best cure is sleep. Then he hands you a spoon and vanishes. You are standing outside a canvas tent. It is slightly crooked, slightly damp, and completely untrustworthy. The sign above the flap reads Physic and Other Curious Healings. The word physic is spelled in 4 different ways across the front, none of them correct. You have, against all logic, entered the medical district of the medieval market. And it is thriving. Your symptoms? Not important. You haven't even said them aloud yet. One look from a self-declared barber surgeon, and he already knows what you need, a pint of blood removed and a boiled onion tied to your foot. You haven't even told him which foot. You step inside the tent anyway. The inside smells like aged soup. Not the kind you eat, the kind that eats you. Herbs hang from the ceiling like drying bats. There are jars. So many jars. Some are labeled. Some are not. One contains what looks like an eyeball and a piece of string. Another is just full of teeth. Whose? Unknown. And best left that way. Behind a stained table, a man turns around. He's wearing robes that might have once been white, but are now the exact color of despair. His beard is glorious. His hands are not clean. He smiles. "Ah," he says. "You look like someone with fluids to spare." This, you assume, is the greeting. He offers you a stool. It creaks like it's being asked to bear a moral burden. You sit. He begins diagnosis. Step 1. He looks at your tongue. You haven't even stuck it out yet. He just knows. Step 2. He pokes your wrist with 2 fingers, nods thoughtfully, and mutters something about humors being impertinent. You ask what's wrong with you. He says, nothing that some bloodletting and a soothing mixture of ash and gooseberry can't fix. You ask what exactly is in the mixture. He changes the subject to weather and war. You glance to the side and notice a stack of leeches. Not in a jar, just a stack. Like they were on sale and someone got excited. You decide to try another healer. Outside the tent, the competition is fierce. Medieval medical professionals, and we are using that term generously, are shouting over one another, waving around herbs, powders, and small dead animals. One woman claims she can cure melancholia of the toe. Another insists he can fix your spine by gently insulting it for 20 minutes. You pass a stall run by a midwife. She seems competent. She's also shouting at a young man who tried to mansplain childbirth to her. She's winning. Next to her is a man offering cures for curses. His solution? Drink goat milk. Stand on one leg. Whisper apologies to the moon. Twice. You keep walking. You approach a table covered in tiny bottles, all labeled with things like essence of joy, liquicam, and definitely not just wine. The vendor is a former monk who left the order for health reasons. He won't elaborate. You ask him if he has anything for sleep. He hands you a bottle labeled Nap of the Dead. You decline. He shrugs and drinks it himself. Immediately falls asleep. Possibly for real. You take a turn toward the surgical end of things. This was a mistake. There's a man sharpening a saw. He smiles. You do not. He introduces himself as Master Osric, surgeon to the unwise. His stall offers a variety of services including limb removal, ear piercing, heresy detection, and what he calls ocular optimism. You ask what that means. He points to a sign that says for when your eye doesn't believe enough. You leave. Further on, you find the herbalists. These are the more chill side of medieval healing. They smell slightly better, mostly of dried plants and vinegar, and they're much less into bleeding you dry. One woman gives you a bundle of thyme and tells you to burn it in your sleeping quarters. It will chase away nightmares, she says. Also fleas. Possibly spirits. You ask if it works. She says it does not work. You thank her. Now you're at the apothecary. He's old. wears glasses thick enough to see through time. His table is a chaotic masterpiece of pestles, powders, and small, oddly shaped roots. He offers you a salve for bruises. You ask what's in it. He says, hope, lard, and the crushed dreams of an elderberry. You buy two. Behind him, an assistant organizes bottles. One spills. A puff of green smoke emerges. No one reacts. This is apparently normal. You move along to the charm makers. They aren't doctors, exactly, but they are willing to sell you small leather pouches filled with hair, coins, and vague intentions. One says, this charm prevents accidental betrayal. You ask if it works. She says, well, I haven't been betrayed yet. You buy three. You're almost done. But then you see the bleeding tent. Oh yes, the big one. Decorated with red cloth, stained with darker red things. Inside, the art of bloodletting is practiced with theatrical flair. The barber surgeon inside wears a hat that could double as a soup bowl. He twirls his blade like he's auditioning for a circus. He offers you a special deal, half pint, half the price. You politely decline. He winks and bleeds a pig instead. For practice. There's also the urine mun. Yes. A mun who diagnoses illness exclusively through examining pee. He has 12 vials on display. He offers a free sample reading. You decline. He offers one anyway. He says, staring into a random jar. This one is angry. You back away slowly. As the night deepens, the healers get weirder. You pass a woman who claims to heal through song. She sings a tune about liver failure. It's catchy. You see a man who believes you can cure most diseases by yelling into a barrel. You see someone offering free bone rebalancing. You're not sure what that means, but you see someone walk in 6 feet 2 inches and leave 5 feet 9 inches. By now, your head is spinning. Your body feels slightly healthier and significantly more confused. You've collected 3 charms, 2 vials of soothing dust, and a leaf that someone assured you would protect your dreams from betrayal. Your feet hurt, but somehow, you feel alive. You survived medieval medicine, with only minor exposure to leeches and no accidental amputation. You sit down near the fire. An old healer sits beside you. He doesn't sell anything. He just tells you, quietly, the best cure is sleep. Then he hands you a spoon and vanishes. You arrive early to the market square. Something is off. The air buzzes. Not with bees. With anticipation. There's a crowd forming, not around the bread cart, or the beer stand, or the man who claims to juggle turnips poorly. No. The people are gathered around a pillory. Ah, yes. It's one of those days. You wander closer. A man is already in the stocks. His expression is one of mild regret and definite onion breath. A chalkboard hangs from his neck, with a crudely drawn picture of a fish, and the words, for lying about EELS. You ask someone what he did. Sold blessed eels, they explain. Turns out, they were just regular eels. One bit a priest. You nod solemnly. This is a serious offense. Not because of the priest, but because eel blessing is a sacred trust. People take eel integrity very seriously here. Another shout rings out across the market. Cheese fraud. You spin around. It's happening again. You rush to the dairy end of the market, heart pounding, because nothing draws a crowd like dairy-based dishonesty. At the cheese stall, chaos has erupted. One vendor, let's call him Harold, because of course his name is Harold, is being publicly accused of mixing cow's milk into a product he swore was pure chic. His rival, let's call her Edith, because she has strong doesn't-take-nonsense energy, is waving a curd sample and demanding divine justice. A crowd forms. A town official arrives, chewing on something that may or may not be legal. He sniffs the cheese. He nods. Then he slaps Harold with a fine of 2 shillings and declares, "No cheese lies in my town." The crowd cheers. A child throws a small turnip in triumph. Harold sulks away. Edith sells twice as much cheese for the rest of the day. Justice is loud, petty, and profitable. You wander on, adrenaline still humming. The market's full of little dramas like these. Some are whispered behind hands. Others are screamed across tables. There's the ongoing saga of the candlemaker and the tanner's apprentice, a star-crossed romance stifled by class, smell, and one unfortunate incident involving beeswax and accidental arson. There's the fortune teller who started seeing omens after people paid her. She now predicts disaster for anyone who undertips. It's working surprisingly well. There's a baker who insists his bread rose through prayer alone. He is very defensive about yeast. There's a rumor going around that the town's blacksmith is actually a woman in disguise. No one's sure if it's true. Frankly, no one cares. They just want their horses shod and their gossip fresh. You reach the center of the square. A wooden platform has been built. Oh no. It's that day. The Justice Day. Yes, once a week, the market hosts public trials for minor crimes. It's like a court system, but with fewer wigs and more pointing. Today's docket includes a man accused of impersonating a monk to get free soup. A woman who borrowed 6 chickens and only returned 3, allegedly the rest flew off. A boy who stole a meat pie, claimed it was an act of divine hunger, and now wants sainthood. The judge, a retired reeve with a strong chin and a weak understanding of law, calls the court to order. You sit on a barrel and watch. The monk imposter claims he was simply spiritually adjacent. He's fined and sentenced to actual soup service for a week. The chicken borrower is asked to produce the remaining fowl. She brings out 2 hens and a duck. The judge blinks, sighs, and declares her weird, but forgiven. The meat pie thief argues that the Lord moves in mysterious ways, and sometimes those ways involve pastry. He's given community service and a leftover crust. Court adjourned. But justice doesn't stop when the platform clears. Oh no. The real courtroom is the market itself. You hear whispers near the linen stall. Someone claims that the weaver's son has been stealing thread and trading it for entertainment in the tavern. You hear muttering near the fishmonger. He's selling yesterday's trout as today's miracle. He swears the smell is just salt air. The rivalry between the spice vendor and the onion cart has escalated. Last week, someone salted the onions. This week, the spice vendor woke up to find a turnip nailed to her door. It was symbolic. No one knows of what. Then, there's the trial of the goose. Yes, it happened last year. The story goes that a merchant's prize goose was accused of sorcery. Apparently, it honked at the wrong noble. A crowd formed. Someone shouted witchcraft, and things escalated rapidly. The goose was put on trial. The judge asked for a defense. The goose pooped. It was acquitted. Barely. To this day, the goose walks the market with an air of smug freedom. Children throw it breadcrumbs. The noble avoids eye contact. You shake your head. This is the market. Messy. Loud. Petty. Unfair. Occasionally just. Always entertaining. You hear singing. Not the good kind. Someone's had too much cider and is serenading a bucket. You hear arguing. 2 vendors are shouting over who has the best mushrooms. One claims hers grow near holy dirt. The other insists his are blessed by moonlight and cow proximity. The crowd doesn't care. They just want to haggle. You pass the fortune teller again. She looks at you. Careful, she says, eyes narrowed. Tomorrow smells like regret. You nod. That tracks. You pass the eelman from earlier. He's wearing a new sign now. It just says sorry. You pat his shoulder. We've all been there. You finally head home. The market is closing. Stalls are folding. Crates are being carried off. Someone's chasing a goat. Someone else is chasing the someone chasing the goat. No one knows who owns the goat. It's fine. You made it through another day in the medieval market. You saw lies exposed, cheese debated, justice half served and half eaten. You step into your home. Your cloak is heavier. With gossip. With memory. With maybe a stolen onion. You collapse onto your straw bed. Tomorrow, the market will return. So will the smells. So will the secrets.